It's an amazing journey that you've had, and I can only imagine how exciting those 2 weeks were where everything just blew up. But I do want to concentrate a little bit on how you, before HarperCollins came along, how you were able to get your books into the number one and number two spots on Amazon.co.uk. So apart from all the guest blogging and the kind of the PR that you drove yourself, there were a few things that you mentioned in a fantastic interview that you did with Joanna Penn on The Creative Pen, and I will leave a link to that interview below this video, where you were talking about the sort of metadata that you had tweaked and your big product description experiment that you went through. And
Yeah,
I should mention that you do have a background in marketing and copywriting. So is that right?
yeah, that's right. I mean, I have spent the last God, almost, yeah, it must be 10 years now, almost 10 years working in marketing for a publisher, in fact, but not a publisher of fiction, a publisher of non-fiction.
Right.
Um, and well, that was until about 2 years ago. Um, and so I did learn. I learned quite a lot about copywriting and marketing through my day job.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I think there are a few things that are really important that you need to make sure that you get right. One of them is the cover design, of course. Everybody knows that. It's got to look good as a thumbnail. It's got to kind of tell the potential customer at a glance in a millisecond what kind of book it is, and
Hmm.
it's got to be intriguing. And so for Killing Cupid, which is our first one, we chose a very striking image of a woman lying on her back with a gun in a bikini. uh,
I
which,
saw that. It's a good
which
cover.
and then
Sex sells, that's for sure.
yeah, and we had a bit of a debate over whether to use that cover or not, and I was quite adamant, yeah, we should, because I knew that it would stand out and then catch your death. I mean, I didn't come up with the cover for that, and my sister-in-law did that. She found a picture of a woman in a mask with a big syringe, a big scary syringe, and and obviously that tells you it's a medical thriller about a virus. So yeah, so that's important. But then you've also, of course, got the product description, which I think is really, really important. And I proved that with Killing Cupid. I kept tweaking it all the time. So there was a point where we had there's a cat climbing on my back. So if I start getting
That's
distracted,
why you're wriggling around.
it's starting to crawl on my shoulder blades.
What's your
Yeah,
cat's
sorry.
name?
So
What's your cat's name?
we had we had we had a bit of luck. I mean, which you obviously need,
Yeah.
um, because what you have to try and do is to get onto the also bought bars of other popular books. So this is a definite fact that if you can get onto the first page of the people who bought this also bought, like that bar that appears on the page, if you can get onto that of a successful popular book, you will shoot up the charts. And I've watched this many times because for example, recently we were the Kindle Daily Deal. We were number one on the also bought bar of the book that got to number one that day, and we followed it. We kind of, like, we were on elastic, connected to it with a bit of
Yeah.
elastic. We followed the chart
Yeah.
and then dropped with it. And then it happens all the time. Getting onto the also bought bar is the hard bit, but once you do, so we pretty much through luck, I think, got attached to a couple of those books that went into the top 10 at the same time. So I knew that thousands of people every day must be seeing Killing Cupid quite prominently on the pages of those books. But we weren't climbing the charts, or hardly at all. We crept up a little bit, and I couldn't work out why we weren't going up. And I thought, well, it must be. It's either because of the premise of the novel itself, and it doesn't appeal to people, which there's not much I can do about now, or it's going to be the product description, or it's the cover. And I thought the cover's good. Maybe it puts some people off. It looks a bit lurid or something. So I rewrote the product description, and instantly, within an hour, but literally within an hour, sales doubled.
Wow.
And it was at that point that it bounced, that it went up into the top 100, and from there it didn't stop. It kept. Once you get into the top 100, and if the algorithms are working for you, because you can go into the top 100 and then drop like a stone if you haven't done it sort of organically through the algorithms kicking in and sort of helping to pull you up the charts. For example, if you bought an advert in, I don't know, the New York Times or something, it might shoot you up in the top 100 for a day, but it would be fake, and you would drop again the next day if you weren't embedded in the algorithms.
Right.
So definitely rewriting that description, and then when we did Catch Your Death, I worked really, really hard on it. And when I say I rather than we, it's because although Louise and I write all the books together, I tend to do most of the marketing and write the descriptions, and then she obviously looks over them and makes suggestions and things. But so
the question on everyone's lips is what did you do to rewrite these product descriptions? Like, if you can, I mean, obviously it was a long process, I would imagine. You didn't just come up with it sort of within a couple of hours, but what exactly did you do?
Yes, well, frustratingly, I've actually lost the original version. I had a computer meltdown, so I've only got the new one.
Okay.
Well, I've only got the last one that we had as on the self-published version, which is on my old blog, or my Indie IQ site. But what I realised from studying the blurbs or the descriptions of some of the other books that are in the top 10 was that the books that are most successful have a very straightforward, quite succinct description of basically the plot. Like, what is the story about? What is it about this story that's going to make you want to read it? Whereas before I'd put in, I think there's a bit too much waffle about who we were, the fact that the book had been optioned by the BBC, like, well, people don't really care about that. It was just a bit confused. It didn't go straight into the hook, which was what's really important. The first line, it's like when you're pitching an idea to somebody, or I don't know, if you're at the Cannes Film Festival, you've got 15 seconds with Quentin Tarantino, you're trying to pitch him your latest idea.
It's your elevator pitch, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, it is your elevator pitch, but it's even more succinct than that. You've got almost one sentence to hook people in, and then each sentence from there on in has got to do that same job as well. It's got to make people feel excited about the idea of reading this book.
Right.
Because we can give away books. You can give away books. You can price them at 99 cents or whatever. But it's people's time is actually the most precious commodity that you're competing for. And we all do it as readers. We all trawl through Amazon looking for the books that are going to appeal to us, and maybe 1 in 50 or something will excite you and make you think, I really want to commit my time. To me, it's not so much the money; it's the time that you're going to put into reading that book.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's classic copywriting. Basically, you've got to try and make an emotional connection with people, and intrigue them, and get them in there. They don't care who you are. They don't care about the book's history, and they don't. It's not like a synopsis that you would write for a publisher, where you kind of write out chapter one, chapter. This is pretty obvious, not really, but the blurb is. And I would say to people, look at the books that you've picked up by writers that you didn't know, whether they're ebooks or books in shops, and study the way that they've written them, and think, what was it about that really compelled me to want to pick this book up and read it, and there's not really a set formula to it, but there are certain rules that you need to follow, and I think that thing of intriguing people and trying to get them excited about it from the first line, that's the most important thing.